This is a production of WGBH2 Boston. News with local depth and local perspective. Our focus report on solar energy, not from your roof, but from a farm. Then from the NSA to the private sector, what internet companies are taking from government spy programs. And Tom Menino, out of the public spotlight, sits down for a wide-ranging interview with Emily Rooney. From the WGBH News studios, this is Greater Boston.
Hello, welcome to Greater Boston on TV and streaming online and on mobile. I'm Emily Rooney. In theory, it makes perfect sense. Harness the power of the sun, reduce your carbon footprint and your energy bill. But in practice, installing solar panels can set you back as much as $20,000, and then you're forced to look at the things. But even if you can get past all that, there are other considerations. Last night, we looked at obstacles to tapping into solar energy in dense historic neighborhoods around Boston. Tonight, we're getting out of the city to see how solar panels fit in with the manicured lawns and tree-lined streets of the suburbs. WGBH News reporter Ann Mostu has this focus report.
The historic house Richard and Rose Mallon own in Melrose has been in his family for 50 years. When they heard their south-facing roof was a good candidate for solar panels, they were still concerned about how it would look.
And I didn't think he would even think about going for it because, you know, the house means a lot to him.
It turns out the house was tall enough that the panels would be barely visible. But they didn't know much about installing and maintaining panels or calculating tax credits. So they opted for a 20-year lease from a local solar company.
Like anything, it was always a trade-off between convenience versus cost. And in this particular case and at this particular point in our lives, we just decided to go with the convenience of the lease.
The lease cost a one-time fee of $15,000. That may sound high, but so were their electricity bills.
Our bills were very consistent. They averaged about $3,600 a year, $300 a month. Our first year on solar, our total bills were $575.
At those rates, the Mallons' investment will pay off in 5 years, and then they'll enjoy another decade of low electricity bills. While the Mallons turned out to be ideal candidates for solar, there's a new option for those who are not. Tell me where we are right now and what we're looking at.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of the Harvard Solar Garden, which is a collective, community-owned solar project, which is run like a cooperative, where the subscribers are shareholders.
Stephen Strong runs this solar garden in Harvard, Mass., the first of its kind in the state. Working with the local utility, the garden feeds electricity back onto the power grid, and shareholders receive credits on their utility bill. They can own up to 15 kilowatts, enough to power an entire home. But the actual credit depends on Mother Nature.
We can't guarantee because of the varying weather patterns, but it's sort of like a CSA for a community garden. You get what the vegetables grow and what's produced during the season.
That season starts in 2 weeks when the solar garden goes online. So far, 60 people have subscribed from all over central and western Mass. They're hoping for a bountiful, sunny harvest. Ann Mostu, WGBH News.
So whether you buy them or lease them, do solar panels really pay off in the long run? I'm joined here by Matt Shortsleeve. He's the regional director of the clean energy company RGS Energy. Welcome. So,
nice to be here.
In the case of the Mallons, that was an ideal setup. They had the roof was south-facing. They didn't have a lot of trees right around that area of the house, but that's not the case with everybody. In fact, a lot of suburbs is very dense forestry.
Right. So not every home's a good candidate to have an installation installed on it, and folks who can't benefit from it shouldn't have them installed.
Where do you stand on those farms? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think farms have a great amount of potential and benefit. I mean, in an example of municipalities, the towns have been saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in their annual operating expenses, and that goes right back into their budget. So I think that can work beautifully, and it can also work for large organizations of any type.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to bring another voice into the discussion, Robert Rio. He's the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for Associated Industries of Massachusetts. So is there a downside, to the solar panels? If we went 100% solar, what would be the downside?
The cost would be enormous, number one.
Why?
First of all, we support solar wholeheartedly. Many of our members have used solar. We've worked with Matt and his group to really get our members to use solar. So there's not a problem with the solar energy per se. It's as we get more and more solar, somebody has to pay for the distribution system when the solar panels aren't working. And that is currently paid through your electric bill. So the couple that you mentioned saving, I think it was $2,500 on the system, that is $2,500 that is not being paid to keep the system alive, so that when the sun isn't shining and they still require electricity, there's billions of dollars worth of infrastructure that is there to serve them. Unfortunately, they're not paying that cost. That cost is being distributed to all the other ratepayers because the cost is a fixed cost.
But they're not using it either.
No, they are using it when the solar
But they're paying for it when the solar panels aren't working.
No. When you net meter, you generate power during the day, let's say, and in the evening you pull off the system. You are paying for it, but it nets off from what you generated during the day. So at the end of the month, you could have a zero energy bill. The power is generated and used at different times, but your bill at the end of the month could be zero. And when it's zero, that means you have contributed nothing to the system. So as the amount of solar gets more and more dense and more of it is installed, this cost becomes very high. It's been estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year going forward. So right now it's a small amount. It's not a big deal. Society can handle it. However, if you ever went to 30% solar, the cost to those not on the solar system would be enormous.
Well, Matt, your group must have researched this. Is that right?
The fact is the distribution system is a fixed infrastructure cost and it requires maintenance. And if an entity, a town, an individual uses the net metering benefit as it is today, there is a lack of contribution to sustaining that system, and that system is important for reliability. I think the current renewal of the program, there's a new set of regulations that have just been released, takes into account some of those concerns.
It's like the hybrid cars. They're not contributing to the highway either.
The hybrid cars are contributing less, but even the electric vehicles is a better example.
Is none.
They're not contributing to gas taxes, and it's exactly the same scenario. So, as Matt mentioned, going forward, we believe the administration has identified this and addressed some of it. However, not addressed properly is a big problem.
You mentioned the administration. Well, I'm talking about the Obama administration. As you know, just this week, I think maybe yesterday, finished putting on solar panels on the White House. So this has been something of a political hot potato because Jimmy Carter had them installed in the 70s. Ronald Reagan took them out in the 80s, and now Obama vowed to put them back, and here he is doing it now. Why is it a political thing? Is it like climate change?
No, solar panels are very good. They do operate, especially in Washington where you get a lot of hot weather, okay? So they're a good alternative to our distribution system and our current energy profile. However, the cost has to be addressed when you get more and more and more. But absolutely, solar is a great technology, and we should be installing more of it.
Do you think is it a political issue, though?
I think that the programs at the state level, whether it's Massachusetts or elsewhere, have been implemented to kind of support these renewable portfolio standards. And some of that is motivated by, interests that could be, considered political. I do think that the industry, the energy industry, has recognized that the current distribution model that exists is about to go through some pretty significant changes.
That's understandable. And they're still, despite what the Mallons think, extremely visible.
Well, to some people that's a problem, other people it isn't a problem.
Right.
All right, Bob, Rios, and Matt Shortsleeve, thanks so much for coming.